Good morning, everyone. It is too cold outside, and I did not want to be out. Really? Nothing coming through? Good morning, everyone. Um, it is too cold outside, and I did not want to be outside today, but thankfully the building is nice and warm. Um, would you stand and sing with us?
this next song we do frequently, and it's probably mostly for me. And it's probably like it's not because of the melody, because the melody is way too low for me and way too high for me both at the same time, but it's because it is so good for me to remember that God's promises are true and that he is faithful and what he says he does, and that I don't know, just that like the storms come and the winds blow, but God is strong and God is true and God is faithful. So we're singing this song today because I've been thinking about it all week long, and it's been playing in my brain and it's been encouraging me. So hopefully it's an encouragement to you guys too. God of Abraham, you're the God of covenant and faithful promises.
Man, if a song is better to have played before this sermon, I don't know what it is. We can almost have me not teach now, which some people will be glad about, because for those of you who were here 2 weeks ago, I preached on one verse for like 45 minutes, and today we're going to go through 9 chapters. So buckle up. It's going to be... Luckily, I have an appointment this afternoon. Otherwise, we might just blow through lunch. So storms may come, the winds may come, but I think that we all would say that they do come. Storms do come, the wind does come. In fact, last week we talked about trials, and we read in the book of James that's written by James, the Lord's brother, and it says that we should count it all joy when we face trials. It doesn't say if we face trials, when we face trials. And what we said last week was that trials are actually good. We don't like them, and I think I said myself probably more so than anybody, I hate trials. But trials are good for us. They're useful, they're helpful, they're beneficial. And last week we said that trials, the hard things of life, test our faith, and that's actually good. We said that trials can grow us in our endurance, that they're designed to complete us, that they can give us an accurate gauge of our love. They can expose false rocks that we're standing on. And so trials sometimes are a really good thing. And we've been in the book of James, and James is trying to give people, including us, a new perspective about challenges, about trials. He's trying to challenge us to have a new way of thinking when it comes to these hard things in our lives. And he says that we shouldn't let the trials of life rob us of our joy. We shouldn't allow them to rob us of contentment in Christ. And what he's saying is that we can actually have deep-seated spiritual gladness in the Lord, even in the most difficult times that we face, because it's important for us to know this and to hear this, because we will face trials. All of us know that we will face trials. And we have so many different scriptures that will tell us that we face problems, that we will have trials. Jesus himself said, in this world you will have tribulation. Paul, in the book of Acts, chapter 14, says, through many tribulations we must enter the kingdom. Peter, in 1 Peter, says, don't be surprised when you meet trials. In the book of Revelation, John says, do not fear what you're about to suffer. We all will have times of trials and suffering and even persecution. Paul says in 2 Timothy, all who desire to live a godly life will be persecuted. And for those of us who read our Bibles quite a bit, you can think back of different characters in the Bible, and you can see trials that they went through. I was thinking about this, and I'll just be real quick. Adam and Eve, they had one of their sons, Cain, murder their other son. Job, in one day, finds out that nearly all of his possessions have been destroyed and that 10 of his kids have died. And then he has major health issues, and those who he thought were his friends maybe weren't. And you see all these things. You can think of King David, and King David on 2 separate occasions lives in hiding because people are trying to kill him. He has a son that takes advantage of one of his daughters, and then another son kills that son for what he did. Like, these people experienced trials, and so will we, right? And then you can say the Israelites, right? All through the Old Testament, the Israelites are God's chosen people, and yet you can see that the trials that they go through famine, they're in slavery, they wander through a desert for 40 years, their kingdom will be split in essence because of a civil war. You can see that they'll be taken over, conquered, and taken into exile, and then when they're in exile, there'll be all these rules to go against them. There'll be a time when you cannot pray to God, you cannot bow before God. You bow before a golden calf. And if you don't want to, you'll have a punishment. You bow and you pray to the king and not to God. And if you don't, there'll be consequences. And we meet Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We meet Daniel, who they won't fall into this. And so what happens is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are thrown into a fiery furnace. And you see Daniel, he's thrown into a lion's den because of this. And I think that we learn valuable lesson when we see things like that about trials. And I think what you see in both of those 2 stories is that God often works most powerfully when we are in the midst of our biggest trials. And you see that, and both of those end up really cool. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they come out of the fire unharmed. And the people around say it looked like there were 4 people in the fire. Daniel comes out of the lion's den unharmed because God closed the lion's mouth. You see all of these really cool things, but it's not just Old Testament, you see it in New Testament, right? John the Baptist will be beheaded for speaking truth. There's this prophecy about Mary, the mother of Jesus, that it says that a sword will pierce her soul too. And what it's ultimately saying is that when Mary sees Jesus, her son, die on the cross, her soul is pierced. See, all through the Bible, people experience trials. You think of Thomas, who struggled with this deep, deep doubt. It's a trial he went through. Peter was in prison. Stephen was killed. James, the brother of John, he's killed. Paul is beaten. He's shipwrecked. He's without food. He's without water. He says of his life that it's a constant walk of toil and hardship. Does anybody else feel like that's the case about life? It's like just when you feel like it's getting good, you're like, oh, something came up. We all experience trials. We see verses in the Bible that tell us. We see the people of the Bible tell us. But we don't need to know this because all of us in this room have had different types of disappointments. All of us in this room have had unrealized expectations. We've probably all had health issues, maybe some more drastic than others. But we've all had different health things. We've experienced setbacks of various kinds. We've had to start over. We've lost people we've loved. We've had relationship issues, maybe marital issues. Maybe we've had to deal with difficult people. It might be the person that you're married to. It is for me. I'm just kidding. It is for her. We've had personal failures. Some of us have had financial difficulties. We've had seasons when we've struggled with anxiety or self-doubt or fear. We've dealt with sickness, pain. I think there's someone here who deal with chronic pain. We all go through various seasons of trials. And James is telling them that they should have a new perspective when it comes to trials. He's telling me, Brian, you need a new perspective when it comes to trials. I think he's telling us as the Greenhouse, we need a new perspective when it comes to trials. And as we've been going through the book of James, I think James does a great job of telling us that trials are useful. They're helpful. But what do you do in the midst of it? He doesn't really say, it's one thing if you're walking through a trial and you're like, I know this is good for me, but you still don't want to do it, right? Like, I know eating vegetables are good for me, but if I'm just sitting there eating a piece of broccoli, it doesn't feel that great. And so what do you do? How do you walk out when you're in trials? And so we've said that this year we're going to do James with jumps. We're going through the book of James, but we're going to take moments where we jump off. Today's one of those days we're jumping off. And we're going to look at someone in the Bible who experienced a lot of trials. Someone who experienced trials, I think that many of them would take any one of us out. And he experienced trial after trial after trial. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the trials that he faced. We're going to look at how he handled each of those trials. And then we're going to end by saying, what can we learn from how he fought through those trials? The person that we're going to talk about today is Joseph. And it's not Joseph, the earthly father of Jesus. It's not Joseph, the stepdad to Jesus. It's going to go back way further in the Bible to the book of Genesis. If you remember in the book of Genesis, God comes to a guy by the name of Abraham. Abraham has Isaac. Isaac has Jacob. Jacob will have 12 sons from 4 different women, and that is a very long story, and we won't tackle that today. He has 12 sons, and his 11th son is named Joseph. And that is who we will talk about today. But before we do, let's pray. Father God, I come before you acknowledging that you are God and that I am not. I come before you confessing that I just absolutely hate going through trials. And God, I come before you knowing and trusting that really so many of us in this room are experiencing trials. And so God, we pray that you'd meet us where we're at today. That you would speak to us, that you would encourage us, that you'd wrap your loving arms around us, that you would give us something tangible to cling on today. We pray all of this in your awesome and precious name. Amen. So Joseph, the 11th son of Jacob, but he's the first son with Jacob's favorite wife, which is never a great way to start, right? Like, well, my favorite wife. But Jacob's favorite wife, Rachel, gives birth to her firstborn, which is Jacob's 11th son, and his name is Joseph. And now there's a problem in the family is that Joseph is Jacob's favorite son. Anybody in here the favorite child? I know I am. Well, that causes problems in a family, right? When you have the favorite son. And so what happens is in the book of Genesis 37, so we're going to go through 37 through 46. Genesis 37, Jacob, he loves Joseph. He's his favorite son, and he makes him this robe of many colors. And most of us are like, well, that seems weird. I don't really want to wear a robe with many colors. But he basically gives him this very extravagant gift. And he almost like puts him up on a pedestal, and he says to the other brothers, like, look, I love him most. I'm giving him this. I think that sometimes families, we try to like do everything super fair, and I'm definitely not a everything needs to be fair, but there's a limit, right? Like if you take one kid and you're like, here is a brand new car, and the other one you're like, you get a bicycle. You know, it's like a little bit different. And what happens is Jacob gives his son this amazing gift, this robe, because he loves him so much. And the other brothers realize it and they know it. And it says in Genesis 37:4 that when the brothers saw their father loved him more than all of his brothers, they hated him and they could not speak peaceably to him. And so we see that Jacob loves Joseph the most. And it's starting to cause family problems. And then Jacob, I don't think meaning to, makes it worse. What he does next is he tells Joseph, even though you're the 11th born son, you should go out in the field and watch what they're doing and report back to me. You should tell on them if they're not doing a good job with their work. And he basically makes them boss. So imagine your younger brother is your boss. And that's what's going on in this situation. The older brothers are jealous, they're envious, and they're hurt by all of this. And they, in fact, are experiencing a trial. The trial of knowing that their dad doesn't care for them in the same way that he cares for the other one. And then it's around this time that Joseph does the first thing that we could say maybe is wrong or maybe is just not wise. Joseph has a dream. And in this dream, he dreams that his brothers bow down before him and that he rules over them. And the error that he makes is he decides to tell his brothers this. How's that go over? Your younger sibling goes, just so you know, you're going to bow down before me one day. It's not going to go over real well. And the brothers hate him for it. They already hate him because dad loves him more. Now they hate him because they're watching after me. They're trying to tell on me when I'm not working hard. And now he tells me that I'm going to bow down to him one day. And so the brothers decide to get together and they decide, let's kill him. Let's kill him. And they all agree, yeah, we should kill him. And what we'll do is we'll kill him, and then we'll take that stupid robe dad bought him, and we'll cover it with blood, and we'll take it back to dad and be like, a fierce animal got him. Sorry, we couldn't do anything to stop it. And then the oldest brother, Reuben, he's like, listen, guys, we can't kill him. Why don't we just throw him in a pit and leave him for a couple weeks? Like, that'll shut him up, right? And so they come up with this, and like, yeah, let's do that. We'll throw him in a pit, and then we'll wait. And then Reuben leaves. Right? So Reuben leaves the group of brothers, and he's like, actually, you know what? I got an idea. Because all of them are competing for their dad's love and affection. So he's like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait till he's been in the pit for a week or so. Then I'm going to go rescue him, and I'm going to take him back to dad. And I'm going to be like, look, dad, now I should be your favorite son because I rescued your favorite son. It creates problems in the family, and we see a very dysfunctional family life that's going on here. But the other brothers make the decision, you know what? Let's not just leave him in a pit. And Judah sees a group of people coming by that are, in essence, buying up slaves. And so what Judah says is, you know what? Let's sell him as a slave. Not only do we get rid of him, win number one, we get some money in our pockets, win two. Let's do it. And so they do that. But the pause here for a moment. These brothers are experiencing a pretty big trial. For anybody who's in this room who's had any type of issues with parents and the struggle that causes, it's a very real struggle. And what we see is these brothers are going through their own trial, but they have this thing in them that if they just get rid of their brother, the trial will cease to exist, which isn't true. And what I've found in my own life is that when we try to remove the trial rather than walk through it, we nearly always fail from the very beginning. You can't just get rid of the trial, and they can't just get rid of the brother and it's going to be all fine. Trials test our faith, And here's the thing, if you don't take the test, you can't score well, right? And so what happens is they ship their brother off. And what we find out is his brother's sold into slavery. So he goes from being the favorite son to a slave. I don't know about you, but just the thought of, boom, all of a sudden tomorrow, I'm a slave does not sound very fun. Going from the favorite son to the slave is a huge issue. And really it's trial number one that he experiences. He goes from being favorite son to slave. What happens is his brothers severely mistreat him. And so that's the trial that he faces. But how is it that he handles this trial? How would you handle this trial? I can tell you this, I would have more than a couple things to say about my brothers. We have no record of him saying anything negative about his brothers. Instead, he walks through the trial. He doesn't say, that's it, I'm done with life. He walks through the trial. And not only does he walk through the trial with character. He's not complaining, he's not arguing, he's not talking bad about his brothers. He's respectful and he's hardworking. The next thing that we see is he has this trust in the Lord. I mentioned this verse last week, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. What I see in Joseph in the midst of this trial is he's like, I don't understand this. This isn't fair. I don't like this. I don't know how, God, you will possibly redeem this, but I'm going to choose to trust you. And when we go through trials, what can we do is we can choose to trust that he's got a plan. And that's what Joseph does. And what happens is it ends up that he starts to gain respect. He starts to gain the attention of Potiphar. That's who he's a servant for, is Potiphar, who's basically the guy who's in charge of the army for Pharaoh. So he's this guy's slave. He's his servant. And he gains his respect and his attention because he's walking with character. He's not bashing people. He's not doing any of these other things. He's just being a man of character. And so Potiphar ends up being so fond of him, so impressed by him, he says, you know what, I'm going to put you in charge of everything in my control, and then you'll do all my work, and then I can be out on the beach. So something like that. I don't know if that's exactly what happens. That's what I would do if I would have been Potiphar. But what we find is now he goes from slave to trusted advisor. And so how does he handle that trial? He accepts it. I don't know how many of you have ever heard this prayer of serenity. Since 1941, AA has used this prayer, and it's powerful. This is what it is God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. To me, Joseph, how does he handle a trial? He buys into that prayer. I can't control that I'm a slave. I can control my heart, my attitude. And he gains the attention. He works his way up. And it's this crazy, cool thing that happens is he handles the trial with dignity and with grace, and he's noticed for it. All of this starts when he's 17 years old. He's 17 years old when he's sold into slavery. And I don't know how long it takes until he's earned Potiphar's trust to be put in this position, but he is, and he's been noticed. But he's not just noticed by Potiphar, which brings up trial number 2. He's noticed by Potiphar's wife as well. Not for the same reasons. She thinks he's pretty cute. And she thinks, I think I want to be with him. And so she tries to seduce him. And not just once, twice. It seems like this is a continual thing of she's like, you need to come lie with me. Come lie with me. Come lie with me. And what he says is this amazing thing. He tells her, he says, Potiphar, your husband, trusts me with everything, and he's given me everything except for you. How could I possibly do something wicked to him and wicked to God? And he stays away from her. He's careful. He probably starts watching like, oh, she's in that room. I ain't going in that room. Well, one day, he has to go, I'll say it's into her room, who knows where it is, but he's got to go into this spot, and she figures it out, and she's there waiting and hiding. And he walks in the room, and she grabs him, and she says, come lay with me. And he is not having any of it, so he just does that wiggle out of his shirt. Boom, he's out of there. He runs. But she's left with his shirt. And so what happens next is she is rejected and angry, and it's a bad combo. So what she does is she screams. She yells, and then all these people come rushing in, and she lies. And what she says is, he came into my room and he tried to lay with me. She accuses him of rape. And he's immediately, boom, taken off to jail. He gets no trial that we hear of. He doesn't have any time to tell his side of the story. He's thrown into prison. And so now, remember, he was the favorite son and then a slave, and now he's trusted advisor. And now, from trusted advisor, he is in prison. I don't know about you, but at this point in time, I would be really struggling. She lies about him, and he's punished when he's innocent. But how does he handle this trial? Woe is me. I'm sure he has those thoughts. I'm sure he has those feelings. I'm sure he wrestles with God just like his dad did. But instead, he walks through it. He walks with character. He trusts that God has a plan in all of this. He buys into the serenity prayer. Let me control what I can, and let me not try to control what I can't. He doesn't seem to bash her name either. If I'm in jail, I'd be like, look, that woman, you better bet I would be really vocal about Potiphar's wife. But we don't see anything about that. He doesn't seem to be stuck on the past. He's living in the present. He doesn't seem to be seeking to defend himself, but he allows God to be his defender in the midst of the trial. And we read in Genesis 39:21, the Lord was with Joseph. The Lord was with him. And I think that when we go through trials, it's the easiest thing to remember and yet the easiest thing to forget. He is with you. And Joseph remembers, the Lord is with me. And it says that the Lord showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight. And so what happens is, he does what he's always done. I'm going to be a person of character. I'm not going to talk bad. I'm not going to bash. I'm not going to be complaining and arguing. I'm going to seek to trust the Lord to live out my faith in the midst of a trial. And he gains the respect of the prison guard. And he gets elevated, and he's eventually brought on to be the assistant to the warden. I said that for any people who are about the office. He was not the assistant warden. He was the assistant to the warden. And so he's in prison, but he's, gets some extra duties. He's Andrew Dufresne, if you've seen Shawshank Redemption. And so one night he's in jail, and two more people get thrown in jail, and it's the king's cupbearer and the king's baker. And one night, they both, the cupbearer and the baker, have a dream, and they have this really weird, strange dream that they're just startled by, they're messed up by. And the next day, Joseph, he's in prison. What else are you going to talk about? He's like, dude, you guys look a little bit messed up in the head. What's going on? And they're like, we had these craziest dreams. And they begin telling him the dreams. And Joseph is like, I know what your dream means. And the cupbearer is like, please tell me what my dream means. And he says, your dream means that you're actually going to be ruled innocent, and you're going to be restored back to your job as the cupbearer. And he's ecstatic. And then the baker's like, whoa, tell me about my dream. And I would guess Joseph's like, I don't think you want to know your dream. And they're like, no, tell me my dream. He's like, okay, you're going to be ruled guilty, and Pharaoh's going to kill you. Ouch. Well, the cupbearer likes the news, and the cupbearer is so thankful, and he says, if what you're saying is true and I'm restored to my job, I will remember you, and I will tell Pharaoh about you. And I think if you're Joseph at this point in time, you're like, he might tell him my story, and I might be able to go home, be able to see my dad. This would be amazing. And so he's probably getting excited, but it leads to trial number 3. The cupbearer is restored to his job, but he forgets Joseph. How easy in this moment would it be for Joseph to grow bitter, to grow angry, to grow resentful, to be angry with the people, to be angry with God, to be angry with his circumstances? I don't know about you, but I know just being in times of waiting, how difficult that is for me. I know how hard it is to have patience. But imagine you're in jail. You've been in jail for a while. You're innocent. Someone tells you that you're getting ready to get out. You think your release is imminent. Any day they're coming down to get me. You probably even telling everybody, like, yeah, just so you guys know, I'm going to be out of here next week. And then days go by. Weeks go by. Months go by. A year goes by. And it's said that cupbearer forgets about him for 2 years. 730 days. He's just still in prison. He's been severely mistreated and enslaved. He's been lied about, accused of something he didn't do. He was punished when innocent, and now, for 2 years, he sat in a prison when he could have and should have been released. I don't know about you, but if any one of these three things had happened to me, I would be screaming out Proverbs 13, 1 and 2. Excuse me, Psalm 13, 1 and 2. You know what Psalm 13, 1 and 2 says this? How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I take counsel in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all of the day? That's where I would be. And I'm positive that Joseph had moments where that's where he was. But how has he walked through the trials? He's walked through them. He's had character. He's trusted that God has a plan. He's not tried to control the things that he can't control. That's how he's handled each and every one. He hasn't been complaining with a woe is me attitude. He's not blaming others, bashing others. He's walking through the trials with dignity, with grace, and with character each and every time. And so I think what happens is he's not quoting Psalm 1 and 2 near as much as he's quoting Psalm 13, 5. Psalm 13, 1 and 2 is the how long, O Lord? But you know what it says at the end of that psalm in Psalm 13, 5? But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. And I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountiful with me. See, I think what's getting Joseph through each of these trials is this. His eyes aren't on the size of his trial, but his eyes are on the size of his God. And here's the thing. If you go through a tiny little trial and your God is just as tiny, it will destroy you. But if you go through a big trial and your God is that much bigger, you can walk through it. And I think what happens in my life is so often my eyes go on the trial and not on God. And so what we see, I think, is yes, he has moments where he says, how long, O Lord? But he has even more moments where he says, but I will trust your steadfast love. You see, I think in my life and in my heart, I want to experience less trials and smaller trials. But I don't think that we need less trials or smaller trials. I think we need a bigger, brighter, more accurate picture of the power that our God has. I don't think getting away from trials is going to help you. It's having this picture of just how big your God is that gets you through. A God who holds you in your darkest days. A God who will comfort you in your difficult times. A God who will lift you up when you are downcast. And that's what Joseph has. Joseph isn't forgotten forever. As I said, it was 2 years later, after he interprets the dream for the cupbearer and the baker, Pharaoh one night has a dream. And it's a startling dream, and he's freaked out about his dream. And so he starts asking around, who can interpret my dream? And he's asking everybody, and there's nobody who can interpret his dream. And so finally, the cupbearer is standing next to him, and he's like, I can't find anybody to tell me what my dream means. And the cupbearer's like, I remember. And he says, there's actually a young Hebrew who's in prison, and he can interpret dreams because he interpreted my dreams. He interpreted the cupbearer's dreams. We should bring him in here and see if he can interpret your dreams. And so they go get Joseph, they clean him up, and they bring him to Pharaoh. And now he goes from assistant to the warden to being in the presence of the Pharaoh. And so Pharaoh says, can you interpret my dream? This is his moment. And he says, no, I cannot. But my God can. He's not looking at his trial, he's looking at his God. He says, my God can. But the thing to me that this is so crazy is because if I was Joseph, there would have been so many times where I felt like my God can't. I would have been like, my God couldn't stop me from being sold into slavery. He couldn't stop my brothers from this evil deed. I would have been like thinking like he couldn't stop Potiphar's wife from the evil that she did and spoke horribly about me and had me thrown into prison. He couldn't stop me and allow me to be removed from prison. He couldn't allow the cupbearer to remember me faster. This whole time but that's not what he does. He still trusts, he still believes, and he has faith that God can. It reminds me of, I don't know if you remember this, but there's a story in the book of John that there's this man who's blind, and they're like, is he blind because he did something wrong? Is he blind because his parents did something wrong? And Jesus says, he's blind. This has happened to him so that the power of God may be shown. And I think that Joseph, somehow in his mind and in his heart, he's like, this is all going on so that God can show his power. He says to him, I cannot tell you what your dream means, but my God can. And he tells him, he says, here's what your dream means. He had these dreams where there's 7 of this and 7 of this. And he says, the dream means that for 7 years, there's going to be tons of food throughout our whole nation. And then there's going to be 7 years where there's no food. And if we are not careful in what we do, we will live like kings for 7 years and then we will all die. And he says, Joseph says, so you probably need to hire somebody who's really good at storing food, really good at managing systems, and you need to hire them. And he thinks he's done. But then Pharaoh says, you know what? I needed somebody who was really wise, who could interpret my dream. And I looked around, I couldn't find anybody but you. And so guess what? You are hired. Your job now is to manage this food. And he hires Joseph. It says that he puts a ring on his hand, he clothes him with fine linen, he puts a gold chain on his neck, and he gives him a wife. He goes throughout this whole process, favorite son to a slave, slave to a trusted advisor to a prisoner, prisoner to assistant to the warden, and now assistant to the warden to assistant Pharaoh. He's the governor of the whole land. And I think that sometimes we think that that would be awesome. Man, he gets this huge promotion, he's out of jail, but this is actually a trial in and of itself. You see, sometimes I think if we just make more money, it'll be easier. Right? If we just get that promotion, it will be better. But sometimes that comes with a lot of extra stress. To whom much is given, much is expected. To whom much is given, much is required. And so that in and of itself is a trial as well. But all this takes place, if you remember, he's sold into slavery at age 17 years old. And now he becomes assistant Pharaoh, becomes governor at age 30. 13 years have passed. All of his adult life have been trial after trial after trial. And now he's Pharaoh's right-hand man, but it's a trial. What happens if you don't do a good job with this, do you think? Off with his head, just the same as the baker, right? So this too is a trial. The fate of a nation rests on his shoulders. I don't know about you, but sometimes I stress in my job that this is going to happen on time or that that's going to happen on time. Can you imagine? Like, we only got 7 years. Do we have enough food? And he's got to be freaking out. But how does he walk through a trial? I think he walks the same way that he does each time. But this time he's on top. This time he's a leader. I don't know about you, but it is not very fun to be a leader oftentimes. It doesn't matter what you do, somebody hates what you do. Every time. You know, I remember talking to so many different leaders in variety of realms during COVID. And it was like people were mad at you if you made them wear masks, and they were mad if you didn't make them wear masks. People were mad if it was just, you could do nothing right. And that's where Joseph is now. Now he's on top, but that's a trial. But he walks through it. He walks through it with character. He trusts the Lord is allowing it for a reason. And here's one. I think that he lives with an audience of one mentality. I'm walking to please the Lord and no one else. People might like it. People might hate it. But the Lord is my audience. And he walks before the Lord. He trusts that God has a plan. He walks through the trial with grace and dignity. You know what happens is he manages the food for 7 years well. And it's during this time that he has 2 kids. First kid's name is Manasseh. But you know what Manasseh means? It means God made me forget all of my hardship. He names one of his kids, God has made me forget all of the hard things. Like, I think he sees his child and he's like, this is worth it all. He has a second child and he names him Ephraim, which means God made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. And what I think that you really see in Joseph is that he is shaped by his trials and he's not smashed by them. I don't know about you, but so often I feel like the smallest of trials could smash me. But for Joseph, they don't smash him, they just shape him. He's so shaped by the trials that he goes through that he names his kids with what he's learned. But he handles this famine so well. He does a great job, and such a good job that it says in Genesis 41, verse 57, moreover, all of the earth came to Egypt, to Joseph, to buy grain, because the famine was so severe over all of the earth. He handles it well. The fate of the nation was on his shoulders, but really it was even more than that. It was the fate of the world was on his shoulders. And famine hit the whole world. You know what? That also means it hit his dad, Jacob. It hit his brothers. And they learn that there's food in Egypt. And so you know what they do? Jacob says to his sons, you go. Go to Egypt and get food. But he won't let his youngest son, Benjamin, go with him because he's fearful of what if something happened to him too. It's almost like Benjamin became the favorite son. It's like, if you guys all die, it'll be fine, but just leave me Benjamin. But they go. And at this point in time, if you remember, he was sold into slavery at age 17. He becomes governor at 30, and then there's going to be 7 years of good. So 20 years have passed. The brothers have not seen their brother. He's been sold off into slavery. He's as good as dead. They come into the room, and they sit before Joseph, and they have no idea it is their brother, and they bow before him. Remember his dream? One day, you guys will come bow before me. And there they are bowing before him, and trial number 5 is at his doorstep. He faces his brothers. He faces those that have done evil to him. And he is in the seat of judge and juror. He could very easily say, off with their heads, they're dead. He could say, throw them in prison. He could say, let's make them slaves. He can say whatever he wants, and he's probably had plenty of time to think about all of the pain. He's probably had sleepless nights thinking, what will I do if I see those jerks? He's probably thought about all the lost time that he's missed with his father. And you'd think there'd be anger or bitterness or frustration. You think that he would be thinking of all of the suffering, but how does he walk through the trial? Does he reject them because they rejected him? No. Does he have them killed or deny their request? Does he say, you're going to reap what you sow, you did evil to me and I will do evil to you? No. It says that Joseph's compassion grew warm. Compassion is that you recognize another person's suffering. With all that Joseph has been through, all the suffering that he's experienced, he's not looking at his own suffering, he's looking at the suffering of his brothers. He realizes that they were suffering with jealousy and envy, which is why they sold me into slavery. It's as if he realizes they were now are suffering with guilt and shame over what they have done. It's as if he somehow knows they're still suffering because they're hiding a dark family secret. Man, it'll eat you up. Secrets will just eat you up. And it seems that he has compassion because he knows they are being eaten up. Compassion is not just that you recognize another person's suffering, but that you feel a deep concern and you feel motivated to alleviate it. His compassion grows warm and he gives them food. It's this beautiful thing that I don't think I could imagine doing, but he also then comes up with a plan. Joseph's a brilliant dude, and he's like, okay, here's the thing, I'm going to give you enough food for like a month maybe, but you need to come back with Benjamin, your younger brother. And so they come back, and it's a very long story, but what he wants to do is test to see, will you get rid of Benjamin to save your own hide? And what he finds out is they've learned their lesson. And so at this point in time, his brothers are back, including Benjamin, and he says, everybody leave the room except for them. So all of the court, all of his assistants, all the people helping with everything, they leave the room. It's just Joseph and his brothers, all of his brothers together. First time he's seen them in well over 20 years, but it's also 7 years of the bad times. So how long did it take till they ran out of food? So let's say it's been 25 years and he's finally with his brothers after 25 years. And this is what it says. Genesis 45 verse 3 says, and Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father alive? And it says that they can't speak. They're dismayed. So then he says, come near to me. I'm your brother Joseph, whom you sold in Egypt. Can you imagine just the overflow of emotions? And then he says in verse 5, and now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves. He gives them permission to experience forgiveness. He doesn't say, I'm going to hold this over your head. I will give you food, but I'm going to keep a record of this wrong, and if you so dare mess with it, I'm off with your heads. He doesn't do that. He says, do not be angry or distressed with yourselves because you sold me. And then he says this, for God sent me before you to preserve your life. He sees that God had a plan in the midst of all of it. And that what they meant for harm, God used for good. And I'm not saying that I've ever been able to be good at doing this, but how do you weather a trial? It's when you begin to understand that God has a plan even in the midst of this. In the midst of his trial, he believed and he trusted that God had a plan. He had a reason. He was at work. Again, it's like he believed the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know difference. What we see in Joseph is wisdom. He trusts the Lord. He walks through the trial with grace and dignity, and all things are great, and it seems like this is the perfect spot to stop. But such is life. Trial number 6 quickly comes. They bring dad. He's finally reunited. He's got his brothers with him. He's got his dad with him, and he's provided a home for them. They're all going to live in this great spot. He's going to take care of them, and then Jacob dies. I don't know how many times you've seen this, but I can tell you I've seen it a number of times where when a parent dies, there begins to be a lot of fighting among the siblings. And what we see here is this is a perfect opportunity for everything to become unraveled. It's a perfect time for anger to creep in. It could be a perfect time for Joseph to be like, you took something away from me that I will never be able to get back. You took away time with my father. But how does he handle the trial of lost time? How does he handle the trial of a lost father? Genesis chapter 50. This is what he says. He says, as for you, what you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive, as is today. So do not fear, I will continue. I will provide for you and your little ones. Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. It's this amazing thing that he does. He's gone through 13 years of his life as a servant, then a prisoner, then being forgotten. 7 years of having the fate of the world on his shoulders, trying to make sure that there's going to be enough food, being fearful that Pharaoh's going to cut off his head if he doesn't do a good job. Then he has 7 years of he's trying to be wise and figure out how to pass out this food. He's going through all of this stuff, but he's not focused on himself and all the trials and all this stuff going on in his life. He's focused on other people. You know, one of the biggest keys of going through trials? Get your eyes off yourself. The first thing, the most natural thing when you are going through a hard time is to start looking inward. And this is me to a T. You know, like you move this to here, I'm suffering, right? And I'm freaking out. But in the midst of a trial, you get your eyes off of yourself. I can tell you that through some hard things that have happened in our life recently, it's been difficult, but we know of people who are going through things way harder, and it's like, gosh, how am I so focused on how hard my problem is when there are people who have things so much worse? And it gives perspective. There's something beautiful in the midst of a trial when you get your eyes off of yourself, and Joseph does that. His father dies. He's not bitter for the lost years, but he's comforting to his brothers. How is he able to do this? How is he able to be this? It seems that he truly believes the verses we read last week. It seems like it's not just in his mind, but it's in his heart. It seems like he truly believes that he should count it joy when he faces trials. It's like he truly does believe that it tests his faith, but that's good. It's like he believes that this is actually going to grow me in endurance. It's like he believes that this is going to actually complete me. It's going to make me better. It's like he believes that each trial is preparing him for his next assignment. If you stop and you think about this, I'll be real fast with this. Every single thing he went through actually prepared him for the next thing. If this wouldn't have happened, he would not have been ready for this. And I don't know about you, but when I'm in the midst of a trial, it's very easy to think forward. I'm stuck in that moment, or I'm stuck in the past of it. Why did this bad thing happen? So let me wrap up. What can we learn about how he handles trials? What can it do in our own life? And a couple quick points. I think we can realize that if we try to remove the trial rather than walk through it, it's a surefire way to fail. I think what we can do is we can look at this and we can see that God often works most powerfully when we are in the midst of our biggest trial. I think we can remember, we can don't focus on the size of your trial, but focus on the size of your God. I think when you're in the midst of really hard trials, you choose to trust that He can. I think when we're in the midst of these trials, we seek to allow the trials to shape us, but not smash us. I think what we choose to do is trust that God has a plan, and that plan is to prepare me for what's next. He's growing me. He's completing me. He's giving me a more accurate picture of who He is. He's building my resiliency. He's making me a person of grit. He's giving me an opportunity to see Him at work. It's all of those things, right? But if we read through all of this and that's what we get out of, you know what you're going to be left with? I got to do better. I got to be like Joseph. And that's fine. That's good. But I think when we look at this, when we go through trials or setbacks or difficulties, it's very easy for us to be very discouraged, for us to be disheartened or downcast or depressed or demoralized. But Joseph, that's not what happens, right? He saw his trials and he knew that God was bigger than his trials. But I think that we have been given a gift that's even better than what Joseph has in that moment. The gift that we have been given is we're on the back end of this. We can look back and we can see that Joseph is this amazing character in the Bible. But you know what we also can see? There's another beloved son who's sent to a faraway land. He's not sold into slavery, but he willingly makes himself a servant. There's another one who will be severely mistreated. Another one who will be punished, though innocent, to take our place. There'll be another who the fate of a nation will rest on. But you'll find that it's not the fate of the nation, it's the fate of the entire world. For God so loved His Son that He gave Him. He so loved the world that whoever believes on Him will not perish but have eternal life. See, there's another one who forgives those who have mistreated Him. Jesus on the cross, He says, forgive them for they do not know what they do. It says that for those of us who are followers of Jesus, who are Christians, that while we were enemies, He died for us. See, we can look to Joseph and it's good, but if we look to Jesus, it is great because there's another one who comes near and wants to comfort. There's another one who comes and speaks kindly to us. There's another one who's willing to provide for us. Provide us with salvation, forgiveness, with love. There's another one who says, you can come home. See, the story about Joseph is fantastic. But if you leave with the story of Joseph, it's crushing. I can't do that. But if you leave with the story of Jesus, you say, through Him I can. Let's pray. God, we are so weak. Some of the smallest, most insignificant trials can just knock us down. And yet we have a God that is so big, so powerful, so glorious, so bright of light, that's so gracious, that's so merciful, that's so compassionate, that He speaks kindly to us, tenderly to us, even when we're an enemy. God, help us to be a people that don't look at the trial that's in front of us and think, how can I get through this huge trial? But we look at a trial, no matter how big it is in our life, and we say, my God is bigger. God, we cannot do that without Jesus. So God, thank you that while we were your enemies, while we were lost, while we were wanted nothing to do with you, that you came to us with a reckless love. You wrapped your loving arms around us, and you're speaking kindly to us even now, saying, you are in the midst of a trial, but I got you. Help us to grab hold of that. We pray this in your awesome and precious name.
Hey, Michael, we're going to change some songs around. You already told him? Cool. Then, second thought. If you are going through a trial or you are facing hard things in your life, we want to be here to support you. We are a family of families, and we want to come alongside you. There are many groups that meet in this building all throughout the week. Like if you want to get plugged in more, if you need somebody to pray with you, we want to be here for you. So please reach out and let somebody know so we can care for each other and love on each other. Yeah. If you guys would sing with us.
stack it stone by stone. 'Cause every Ebenezer says I've never been alone. My faith will surely falter. That don't change what you've done. Stack it stone by stone. 'Cause every Ebenezer says I've never been alone. My faith will surely falter. That don't change what you've done. 'Cause every Ebenezer points to where my help comes from. Every Ebenezer points to where my help comes from. Every Ebenezer points to where my help comes from.
Do you have any announcements, Sarah? All right. Go take care of each other. We love you guys.